Alright, what is up, guys? Welcome to my little tiny E3 review. I'm not going to go over everything in depth. I'm just going to kind of go over each conference, what I felt about it, and what I felt about what was presented. Anything that really caught my attention, we will talk about. But, anyways, wish me luck, because I've been having computer problems the past day. Started yesterday, and hopefully now it's a little bit more stabilized. We'll see if I can even get through this review without a blue screen of death. I was able to do some updates just before this and restart my computer a couple times and left it on for a little bit without blue screening, so we will see. That was while nothing was running, so anyways, just wish me luck. So jumping into it first, I will say I was at work during the EA conference and the Microsoft conference, so I have nothing to say about either of those. I didn't see them. I was at work. I was gone. From what I've heard, the EA conference was just kind of meh, you know. I haven't heard too much about EA. What I heard about Microsoft was they kept talking about 4K, 4K, 4K. They were really heavy set on 4K. I heard that they only showed like 2 true exclusives. I heard that the game lineup there was kind of lacking. The exclusives were kind of lacking. I did, however, see that they are getting Players Unknown Battlegrounds, or Player Unknown's Battlegrounds. I always mix up that. So that's actually pretty interesting. There's a lot of debate on whether it's a true console exclusive and being only Xbox. I've been seeing people say it's only a timed exclusive and it will move to PlayStation. Hopefully it moves to PlayStation, but if not, I have it on PC, so whatever. It won't affect me too much. I do think it should, however, move over to PlayStation. Purely because Players Unknown, with it being early access, it'd be more revenue, it'd be more chances for them to work on the game, and I really, really enjoy the game and would really like them to get more revenue so they can continue working on it and stuff like that. You know what I mean, whatever. So moving past that, we get the Bethesda conference here, and Bethesda, they were an interesting conference. I will say, everything they showed didn't interest me too much. I wasn't really interested in most things they showed. It's just kind of, they didn't show too much in my opinion. They showed like Fallout 4 VR, and VR does not apply to me. I am not a VR fanatic. I do not have a VR. I do not care for VR. I am one of those people who really does not give any craps about VR. To me, VR is just, it's just there. If you enjoy it, great, but it's not for me. It's nothing for me. So VR, no. They did the VR Fallout, and everyone was kind of freaking out. Whatever. Wolfenstein, never played it, so the second reveal kind of was nothing to me. Just everything they showed really didn't apply to me. I'm not big on the card game, so Skyrim Legends or whatever it was, the Elder Scrolls Legends didn't apply to me. I haven't played Elder Scrolls Online, so that whole Morrowind thing didn't affect me. I do respect Bethesda, though, because they did keep their conference to mostly things, if not everything, coming out in only 2017. So you do have to give them respect for that. They are focused on just this year of games, And so I gotta give them props for that, even if I wasn't necessarily into anything or everything that they had showed. So moving past Bethesda, I believe Ubisoft was the next conference. Ubisoft is kind of the same, I wasn't really too into Ubisoft's conference. I think Ubisoft did better than Bethesda, but, there still wasn't much in the Ubisoft that got me hyped. You had what? They showed Steep, they were doing all their Steep thing, Just Dance, Far Cry, which I've never gotten into the Far Cry series. By the way, Far Cry 5 looks like the state of Texas. It looks like a bunch of Texas hillbillies had taken over the world or something. Like, what the heck? I mentioned that when I have all the E3 conferences that I'm talking about, except Nintendo's. Unfortunately, because of my computer problems, I couldn't record Nintendo's, which sucks because we'll get there, but Nintendo was actually my favorite conference this year. And again, we will get there, but whatever. So, they had a bunch of hillbillies, I don't know, whatever. They showed the Good and Evil 2 or whatever, the Good Within, I don't know, the Good and Evil 2, whatever, with the monkey, and everyone freaked out over that. That looked like a movie to me. The whole sequence there with that looked like a movie. But again, doesn't interest me. Didn't play the first, Nothing they really showed interest me. I was hoping for another Tom Clancy game. No, not really, nothing there, so there might have been like one or two games there that caught my attention, but if they were or did, I don't remember them, so they probably weren't all that great. The conference like Bethesda, it didn't really speak to me. So now we move on to the best two conferences, in my opinion, Sony and then Ubisoft. Or Sony and then Ubisoft. Sony and then Nintendo. Sony, they showed a couple things that caught my attention. Days Gone, they showed it last year. And on Twitter, everyone was shocked. Like, everyone thought it was a new game. I'm like, they showed this last year. How does nobody know what this is? It looked like a Last of Us. The gameplay looked kind of like The Last of Us with sneaking around and all that. And, they showed new gameplay from last year, which is great. They didn't show anything from last year, which is good. They showed, like, the zombie aspect, a little bit of the story, kinda. Didn't show too much on it, but, it's kind of interesting. I'll have to see more on it before I make an opinion on it, though. Again, it's not for me. Before I move any further, I'm really, really shocked that there was no Last of Us 2 here. I thought for sure if any game makes an appearance, Last of Us 2 would, and it didn't, and that actually really, really shocked me. So they're either saving it for next year because the game's that far out, or they might talk about it at PlayStation Experience. I know Sony likes to save some of their big stuff for PlayStation Experience sometimes, so I'm hoping maybe Kingdom Hearts 3 will be there, Final Fantasy VII Remake will be there, because those were not here as well. Although we did get the new Kingdom Hearts trailer the day before, which is really nice. The new Kingdom Hearts trailer is pretty good. I'm excited for that. Okay, so apparently my computer blue screened. It's a little weird in terms of how the video is going to go, but I don't remember. That was yesterday. I was able to recover the save file, so everything before what I'm saying just now, just after I think I was talking about Kingdom Hearts 3 at the end, everything now is the next day recorded. Audacity was able to pull up the save. It looks like I was able to fix my computer by resetting it. I just reset the thing. It's pretty much on a clean install. It kept all my personal files, like pictures, videos. I didn't think any of those were causing corruption, and it doesn't look like any of them were. So, for now, everything looks fine. Everything looks dandy, but it's a little weird because that was yesterday, so I don't remember exactly what I was talking about. I know we were on the Sony conference, but I don't know what we talked about and what we hadn't. So, I guess I'll just wrap up the Sony conference by saying it's pretty good. I think they were second best. It's really weird. There's no Last of Us 2. There's no Red Dead Redemption 2. There's none like these big main hype title games. God of War was there, and God of War was pretty cool. But it looks a lot slower than the old games. It's not really, doesn't look like it's going to be as much a hack and slash this time around. So, I don't know. I guess we'll just have to see what they do with that. So, lastly here, finally, we have Nintendo, who, in my opinion, gave us the best conference. Nintendo started off with, I guess Nintendo has the best conference just in terms of hype, but it's, I guess once the games come out, we'll see. But as far as hype goes, I think Nintendo had the most there. For me, personally, I don't really care about that Mario Rabbids game mix. Everyone seems to be eating it up. I don't really care. Also, here's another unpopular opinion. I don't really care about Super Mario Odyssey, okay? Mario in New York does not look interesting to me. And to me, it looks really stupid, in fact. So, I guess we'll have to see how that game turns out. I don't really care for those two too much. I'm not a big Kirby fan, but, there's a new Kirby, which everyone's getting excited for. There's the two new Metroids, which gets me really excited. Metroid Prime 4, which they didn't show anything. They just showed the title, not even the title screen. They just showed a now in development screen. But it's good to see a, proper Metroid coming back. And then they also had, after the show, during their, Treehouse Live coverage, whatever, they were showing, apparently I believe it's a remake of 2. It's either a remake or supposed to very heavily follow and be similar to 2. But they're doing another 2D side-scroller, which is really, really interesting. It's really cool. I know some people have been asking for that. Actually, a lot of people have been asking for that. And so, they were showing it off on the 3DS, and that's really cool and everything. And so that really did it for me. Those two Metroid things really did it for me. And then, they come out and they're like, oh, well, the next Pokemon game, the next core Pokemon game is going to be on Switch. So, obviously, everyone's already speculating. Everyone thinks it's going to be Gen 8 on the Switch. And so that's really exciting. It's really nice to hear that they'll and they might not even be switching over. It might just be developed for both Switch and 3DS, you know. I could see them making this next Pokemon game for both once, just so people have more time to get a Switch, and then after that, maybe they'll flip it to Switch, or maybe they'll stick to 3DS. Maybe they'll decide they don't want to put it on Switch. Who knows? But I could see them doing it on both for the first year, and then after that, they'll make their decision. But anyway, so, you know, then you had that. Then you go to Pokken, which doesn't interest me too much. It looks, I mean, maybe it's a little interesting, but it doesn't look like something I'd get for full price, you know. We had Pokken, which people were getting excited about. And I know there was one other big one that I was actually excited about. Metroid. Oh, they showed all the Zelda stuff. They showed off some of the new Zelda DLC. Some of the new armors. Some of the... Oh, and that's else what I can get into. So they showed the Zelda stuff, the Korok mask, and, you know, some of these other armors, which was really cool. And then they showed part of the DLC, and it looks like it's some trial. You're going to start naked again, and you have to... You know, it's kind of like the beginning of the game. You start out with nothing, and you're going to have to scour and find all your stuff while you're trying to get through whatever the DLC is. But along with the DLC, and along with Metroid, they're bringing 6 new amiibo that I care about a lot. There's a lot of new amiibo. There's like 10 plus new amiibo that they brought with this conference. Probably like more like 12 to 13 plus, you know. There's a lot. But the ones I'm interested in are the 4 Zelda. There's one of each of the champions. And then there's the 2 Metroid ones, which I actually just pre-ordered. The pre-orders are still up. I was up all night trying to work on this thing, and so slept in pretty late and missed the second wave of pre-orders for the champions, unfortunately, on Best Buy. But I did get this one that I'm trying to tell you about. The Metroid and the Samus 2-pack. Like, it's an actual little Metroid figure. And Samus in the classic, you know, Metroid 2 pose, where she's on her, you know, she's got the one knee, she's got her cannon up in the air, she's grabbing her cannon. Really cool, really cool. All 6 of these amiibos are really great, and I really hope I can get the champions ones at Best Buy. I hope they open pre-orders at some time when I'm not sleeping or I'm not busy, so that I can pre-order them. So then you keep along with Nintendo. They had Fire Emblem Warriors. That was pretty interesting to me. I might end up getting that. That looked pretty interesting. Never really been huge into the Warriors games, or the Warrior Dynasty games. But, you know, Dragon Quest is kind of the same thing. And I enjoyed Dragon Quest Heroes, so I'm sure I'll enjoy Fire Emblem Warriors here. And, you know, I really hope for the Switch they bring Virtual Console. I would really like to play Wind Waker and Skyward Sword. I've never played either of those, but I don't have a Wii or a Wii U. I really like to play both of those. You know, Twilight Princess HD would be cool to get on there. And then, you know, like some of the Fire Emblem games they might put on there. There's a bunch of stuff that I'd like to play that just I would need them to put on the store, and I'd gladly buy it all, you know? You know? And I guess like even what am I trying to say? Not Fire Emblem. Hyrule Warriors I would potentially look into getting as well. But yeah, Nintendo, you know, they're really solid throughout. It was short and sweet, you know, it was only 30 minutes. That's the thing. Every conference this year, or most conferences, were kind of short, you know. At least the big ones. Nintendo was the regular, though, and Nintendo was always about a half hour. Actually, didn't Nintendo used to do hour ones? I don't remember. But Nintendo was around 35 minutes. Sony was only like 55 minutes. You know, Ubisoft was around around an hour. I guess Bethesda, was it Bethesda? One of them did go on for an hour and a half. I think it was Bethesda. Might have been Ubisoft, but I think it was Bethesda. Went about for around an hour and a half, rather. That's what my recording was. So, you know, but maybe about an hour 15, hour 20 after all me and Dalton got done BSing around. Anyways, there's kind of a tendency to be short. You know, Sony usually was like an hour and a half conference. So, kind of weird. I personally think Sony is saving their big bucks for next year. You know, next year's E3, they should have The Last of Us 2, which will be coming out. Hopefully, they can have Kingdom Hearts 3 and Final Fantasy 7 remake stuff. Because if they don't by that point, then they're just lost causes, you know, for years and years and years to come. But there is another mainstream Fire Emblem game coming to Switch, so hopefully that'll make it to next year's E3. I was talking about... I just mix up conferences. Hello? You know, they'll have a lot. Last of Us 2, I just talked about Final Fantasy and that. Death Standing, which everyone is excited about, not me, but everyone's excited about, should hopefully be there, which that one wasn't at this E3 too, which was weird. I don't know. Either way, this is just a quick little review talk over V3 for me. Let me know your opinions down below, what you agree with, what you don't agree with, who do you think you did the best, who do you think did the worst. If I had to rank them, I'd probably go Nintendo, Sony, Ubisoft, Bethesda, and then Microsoft and EA are at the bottom because I didn't watch them. That'd probably be my rankings if I had to, but I don't know for sure. Anyways, yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys later. Hopefully my computer is also fixed. Fingers crossed on that.